As a leading domestic mobile phone manufacturer, Huawei has been working hard to separate the Android ecosystem and hope to achieve its own independent development. Although Huawei's Hongmeng ecosystem currently still relies on the Android ecosystem, they already have their own plans. According to reports, Huawei plans to launch the harmonyos Next system next year. This system will no longer be compatible with Android apps and will not use AOSP code. Instead, it will establish its own Harmony ecosystem. This will allow Huawei mobile phone users to become independent from the Android ecosystem and achieve a truly autonomous system. Huawei's efforts were not achieved overnight. Although most of the apps in Huawei's app gallery are still Android apps and belong to the Android ecosystem, the implementation of Hongmeng ecosystem has begun to take shape. Huawei already has some pure-blooded Hongmeng apps. Although the number is not large, it is undoubtedly a sign of Huawei's independent development. As the Hongmeng ecosystem continues to grow, Huawei will gradually break away from its dependence on the Android ecosystem and achieve truly independent development. Xiaomi HyperOS, a potential contender based on deep evolution. As another well-known domestic mobile phone manufacturer, Xiaomi is also seeking to separate the Android ecosystem. Xiaomi's self-developed HyperOS, also known as Thermal OS, is technically developed based on the deeply evolved Android Vela. At present, Xiaomi has not yet clearly announced that it will leave the Android ecosystem, but judging from their technological progress and efforts, whether Xiaomi will take this step in the future is a matter of great concern. Xiaomi has made significant technological breakthroughs in the past few years, especially in the development of MIUI. The MIUI system has become a major feature and selling point of Xiaomi mobile phones and is deeply loved by users. Based on the continuous understanding and exploration of technology and user needs, Xiaomi is expected to conduct more technology research and development and system customization in the future, and may eventually break away from the Android ecosystem and implement its own new system. Honor Magic OS, Vivio Origin OS and Oppo Color OS, secondary development based on AOSP. In addition to Huawei and Xiaomi, Honor, Vivo and Oppo have not given up their efforts to separate the Android ecosystem. The systems of these three manufacturers, namely Honor Magic OS, Vivio Origin OS and Oppo Color OS, are all secondary developments based on AOSP. Although on the surface, these systems still belong to the Android ecosystem, in fact, they are completely out of Google's control. These three manufacturers are committed to in-depth modification and customization of AOSP to create their own unique system. They have no connection with Google's GMS. They are developing their own system in the Chinese market and are no longer limited to Google services and applications. According to rumors, Oppo and Vivo also plan to be similar to Xiaomi's self-research plan. They may conduct more secondary development in the future and gradually escape the control of the Android ecosystem. Google is helpless against domestic mobile phone manufacturers. With the efforts of domestic mobile phone manufacturers to fragment the Android ecosystem, Google seems somewhat helpless. The open-source nature of Android prevents Google from restricting the development of domestic manufacturers. However, in the mainland Chinese market, Google's GMS is not widely used. Therefore, these manufacturers can freely develop their own systems in the domestic market and even quickly gain recognition and support from users. However, Google has not given up its focus on the Chinese market. Although GMS is not available in the mainland Chinese market, Google is still actively promoting the localization of Google services and applications, hoping to further expand its influence through cooperation with domestic manufacturers. For domestic mobile phone manufacturers, they are also faced with a choice problem. Whether to cooperate with Google or develop independently will be a decision that needs to be weighed. As competition in the domestic mobile phone market becomes increasingly fierce, domestic mobile phone manufacturers are trying to separate the Android ecosystem and achieve independent development. Huawei, Xiaomi, Honor, Vivo and Oppo all have their own efforts and plans, hoping to establish their own mobile phone systems and ecosystems. Although they still have a certain dependence on the Android ecosystem, through continuous secondary development and research, they are gradually realizing the separation and independent development of Android. For Google, it is a challenge for domestic mobile phone manufacturers to separate the Android ecosystem. Google cannot restrict the technology and system research and development of domestic manufacturers, and in the mainland Chinese market, Google's GMS does not occupy a dominant position. Despite this, Google still hopes to expand its influence in the Chinese market through cooperation with domestic manufacturers. For domestic mobile phone manufacturers, whether to cooperate with Google or develop independently, they need to make a choice between independent development and integration with international standards. In the future, domestic mobile phone manufacturers will face more challenges and opportunities on the road to fragmenting the Android ecosystem. They need to continue to innovate, strengthen technology research and development, and provide users with better products and experiences. At the same time, they also need to balance the relationship between independent development and integration with international standards, and find a development path that suits them. I believe that as time goes by, China will see these domestic mobile phone manufacturers gradually become successful and achieve their own independent development and breakthroughs.